is never share a story that you haven't healed from.
Hmm.
And it's so important because we recognize the motivation and the transformation of somebody's story and the impact that it can have. But do you recognize that when I impart my story, and this is what God kind of showed me, is that it's like holding up a dandelion,
Hmm.
it's not the yellow dandelion, it's the one where there's all the
Yeah.
floaty thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's my story, and I'm gonna blow on it. And all of those are seeds. Your story is a seed of transformation that's planted in somebody else.
Hmm.
And so you tell that story, it's blown out all over the world and it's going to land in all these different people.
Hmm.
You control what's planted in that seed. Is it going to be hurt, pain, rejection, dishonor, whatever that looks like? Or is it healed, imparted, delivered, set free, and transformation?
Yeah.
And so when you tell your story, tell it from a viewpoint of healed, set free, and delivered so that you're imparting that into other people, recognizing the identity of who I am.
Hmm.
And it came in a moment during the divorce with my ex-wife. And I had lost my job, I had lost my ministry, and I had to step back from so much.
Right.
And then I had an elder in my church that said, "You'll never be able to be in church ministry again because you're divorced."
Right.
And I cried out to God. I'm like, this is how you want my life to be?
Hmm.
Like I didn't do anything. She wanted to go up in her business, so she did what she did. Like this didn't have anything to do with me. And the Lord said this, and He spoke it very clearly as I was walking down. I was on a third step going to down my stairs to my main floor, and He said this, "Devin, your identity doesn't come from the creation; it comes from the Creator. And when you
Hmm.
recognize that and
Yep.
you walk in the fullness of that, you will always be free."
Hmm.
And so
Like
that changed
identity is
my life.
fire, right?
And a coach called me out and they said, "Devin, why don't people know that you've worked with John Maxwell? Why don't people know that you've traveled with this apostolic leader? Why don't people know that you've done this and done this and done this?" Well, because it's not about me. And they
Hmm.
said, "You're prideful." And I said, "Whoa, wait a minute. That's the complete opposite. Like, you got me wrong." And they said, "Devin, how dare you get in the way of God's glory?"
Wow.
It's like,
This
ooh,
is so
man,
powerful.
be nice to me.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bring to Work series. Today's guest is a coach, speaker, and international best-selling author who's been on TV, built an academy, and shared the stage with some big names. But more than that, he's a dad of three adopted kids and all about real impact. Stoked to have him here. Welcome to the show, Devin um, Schubert. Is that
Hey,
correct?
you did well. You did well with the
Woo!
accent and everything.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Super excited to have you here, brother. So prepared as always. Super excited for this conversation. We'll have some really deep talk, I think. Really excited and really interested in learning about you and how did you get into entrepreneurship and everything. What have you been like? What have you been talking about even prior the interview? So without further ado, I would love to let you to share a little bit of your story. How did you get into entrepreneurship and so on, so we can connect with the audience, and then we can just continue from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Adam, for having me on here. And I just love being visible to people because I believe that if we're visible, God can be visible through us.
Mhm.
And so, one thing
Power.
I learned
Yep.
early on is not to shy away from being on the stage or sharing your story. And so it's an honor. So thank you, Adam, for allowing
Totally,
me to be a
totally.
part of this. Um, so,
So
uh, Go
before,
ahead.
yeah, sorry. You said you being shy away, like that's what you learned from the begin. That was the one of the things that did stop you from being actually out there and sharing your light. That was one of the things that you actually, because you just pointed something really like I can relate to that a lot because, I've been literally at that path, especially at the beginning, I've been like thinking and listening all other people just uh and that hold me back from so many things like doing and being out there. So yeah,
Mhm.
you just continue with your story, but I would love to listen that also.
Yeah, yeah. So the shyness wasn't really mine. Like I've never really been like super introverted, but it's been about the pride thing, making sure that you're not prideful. And in church, I was always taught, don't put yourself in the front,
Mhm.
don't have people looking at
Yeah.
you. And I was always the center of attention everywhere that I went, everywhere. It didn't matter. And so one time, it was really funny at church camp. I was leading worship with my guitar, and I brought in this whole band. And it's an older church camp, so it was like we were still playing the '70s music and
Right.
kumbaya stuff. And we had brought in this whole band because this is what all the kids wanted. And we were jamming out, and we went for 3 hours. We were breaking cymbals. I mean, it was just amazing. God was doing such a great thing. Afterwards, the dean called me in and said, "We're gonna have to ask you to leave because this is not all about you. And you've made this entire camp all about you. You think you need to be the center of attention. You think that everybody needs to worship you. You just need to leave." And I said, "You know what? You got me all wrong. You've known me from growing up. You know that's not my heart. But if that's what you feel, fine." 2 weeks later, I come back because I have this picture. It's this picture of somebody standing at the back of the chapel. There's the pews on both sides, me in the middle, and I'm like in that transparent, like that ghost mode, and you
Yep.
can see through me and you can see the cross. And so I
Wow.
laid this picture on his desk and I said, "It looks like God has a different view of me than you."
Wow. So, oh my God, that's so good. Holy smokes.
And so it's
Wow.
recognizing as I jumped into entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
I've done some amazing things. God has
Hmm.
blessed me with some amazing opportunities. But I didn't share them because I thought I was being prideful. And a coach called me out and they said, "Devin, why don't people know that you've worked with John Maxwell? Why don't people know that you've traveled with this apostolic leader? Why don't people know that you've done this and done this and done this?" Well, because it's not about me. And they
Hmm.
said, "You're prideful." And I said, "Whoa, wait a minute. That's the complete opposite. Like you got me wrong." And they said, "Devin, how dare you get in the way of God's glory?"
Wow.
It's like,
This
"Ooh,
is so
man,
powerful.
be nice to me." Like that's not nice. That hurts. But they were right. Me
Yeah.
not sharing my story, not sharing the accomplishments, the things that God blessed me with, robbed other people of their blessings. It robbed God of his blessing, and he couldn't use me the way that he wanted to by being able to by for me being able to share my story. And so now I have no problems sharing about the accomplishments I've done
Mhm.
because I know if they see me, people are going to see God. And we'll dive into, everything that I do is orange. I have orange everything. All of that is because God has put me as a beacon for
Uh-huh.
his life. And when
Uh-huh.
we're a conduit, it's all about him.
Mm.
Started with, being in youth ministry. And when I was a kid, I was a leader. And I was very good at getting the distractions by burping, by farting, by throwing stuff in youth group. And one day the youth pastor stopped the lesson, chucked a football across, put a hole in the wall, and asked everybody to leave. And he said, "Devin, you're called to be a leader. You're either going to lead people to heaven or you're going to lead people to hell. You choose." And he walked out of the room.
Wow. Oh,
Talk about the weight of that on a 14-year-old kid. Like, come
yeah.
on, bro. That's not cool.
Wow.
It radically changed my life. It radically changed my life because
So
I
you've
wasn't
been
even
have you been
known.
have you been always basically led into like Jesus' name and to that like belief and everything like from your young age already, or have you discovered it along the way?
Yeah, so I grew up in a church family, a Christian home. My parents were always at church. I rebelled at the beginning. I was still doing all the church stuff, but the kids in school, man, the Christians, they
Hmm.
were cliquey. Like they shoved everybody else out. I'm like, that is not the representative of God that I want to have.
Hmm.
So I recognized that there had to be something different. Jesus didn't walk in and shut everybody else in the world out.
Hmm.
And so that's where there was like this fine line of like, how do you fit into the world, but you're not of the world? You have to be in the world, but not of the world. What does that look like? And
Hmm.
so that was like the balance that was going on in my head of, okay, do I really want to be leading people to hell? That does not going to look good at the pearly gates.
No.
So I chose the other path, and I decided to be all sold out. And so I graduated. I went to Bible school. During
Wow.
Bible school, I also led a youth ministry. So I drove an hour and a half to lead a youth ministry.
Hmm.
And then over the next few years, I have helped plant 7 churches. I've helped start 9 ministries.
Hmm.
I've done youth ministries that have gone into the hundreds of students by bringing people in. I've been let go from churches because of the way that I do ministry of having kids that are smoking and skateboarding in the church parking lot while reading the Bible and getting saved. But it doesn't look good to the church. But you know what? People are being saved. That was kind of like my beginning of entrepreneurship
Mhm.
in the ministry realm. And I think a lot of people get confused of, well, I'm called to the marketplace, but how do I do ministry at the same? It's the same thing. When we recognize that our life, our business, our ministry are all intertwined, then we can live to the fullness of what God has called us to.
Mhm.
Because Jesus was himself, he did his life.
Mhm.
He lived out his ministry and everything that he did, and everybody called him the carpenter or the carpenter's son. They knew who he was in his business. So he did all those things all together in one. So why should we be any different?
Mm. That's
So
really
I
interesting.
started out doing all these aspects. I was a social worker for 15 years. Our system here in America is broken.
Mhm.
And I recognized being a social worker that my Bible said that the church is supposed to be taking care of the orphans and the widows
Mhm.
and the lost, like all those things. And so I was like, okay, well, let's do it. So we started taking the foster care kids into the church system,
Mhm.
and we got it legalized here in the state of Iowa, where I live. I adopted two boys from foster care. I have three adopted children,
Wow.
and then I went through a nasty divorce. I was off on a ministry trip with my youth group, and I come home to my wife at the time with her boss. So
Mhm.
talk about going from like really highs to like, ooh, the bottom pits of like your life
Mhm.
is going to end. Yeah, that happened. And during that, it was a rough time.
Mhm.
As you can imagine, I lost my job. I had to step away from ministry. I lost my kids 50% of the time. She tried to take everything away from me, and the only thing I had was God.
Mhm.
Now, during this, I had been planting the churches and I had a relationship with God, but I never really understood that there's this spiritual realm. I believed it. I believed in the miracles and the signs and the wonders and all of those things, but I never experienced it. It's very dry
Mhm.
here. And so, 2 weeks after I found her with her boss, I went through this inner healing and deliverance ministry. And God opened up my eyes
Mhm.
to all these things. And I was just set free from so much. And I began walking and seeing eyes opened and seeing babies that were dead in the womb come back to life. I got to see all these different miraculous things. And it was a precedent that God was putting inside of me for what was to come. And
Mhm.
how many times do we look at obstacles in our business, in our ministry, in our life, and we say, man, what is the purpose of this? There's
Mhm.
always a purpose because God's word says that he will turn all things to good
Yep.
for those who believe in him. And
Mhm.
so we have to remember
Yeah.
that aspect.
This is so good. Most people, they are instead of accepting those things that are happening and telling them like there are always two sides of the coin, right? You can take it from the negative or from the positive,
Mhm.
right? And most of the people, because of the way of how we are programmed, they are basically talking always negative, negative, moaning all the time and so on, instead of taking it from the other perspective and taking it in their advantage. So it's like it's not that why is it like happened to me is not happening to you, it's happening for you so you can change to be a better person,
Yeah.
right? um and this is like one of the biggest pieces that when I discovered this, it changed a lot for me.
Mhm.
But prior this conversation, you said US is broken. What do you mean by that?
The system. So we have a child welfare system to
Mm-hmm.
where they're protecting the kids, but instead it's driven by the finances of the higher ups in the government. And so it's not always about what's best for the family, what's best for the kids. It's about where the money's coming from and the legalities that come on that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really interesting because in other countries, I think it's a little bit different. I'm not exactly sure because I'm not really into this type of topics. Um, but anyway, how Christianity and the way that basically, I would say, even that may sound um, harsh, but the thing that happened to you happened for you, the way that you who you are, like to shape you to the person that who you are now, and that you can serve people on higher level and be able to see things from different perspective and so on. So tell me how being aligned with God and everything would like how you see. yourself and success and like how you see help yourself helping others, how this all changed the way you are living.
Yeah. It's a great question. And I believe that, Second Corinthians talks about us going from glory to glory to glory. And that's a big thing in business as well, is a lot of times people get stuck
Hmm.
in their business. Usually it's like, I don't know what to do next. I'm not getting clients. I'm not getting leads. I don't know what to do. Well, the thing is that you're stuck in between glories. And so what we need to do is we need to go back to the last glory and see, what did God say to do? What did your coach last tell you to do? What was the last thing that was working? And let's move forward from there.
Right.
So what I learned in this situation with my ex-wife and all these things is that I knew that there were more things coming
Mm,
and that God was preparing me for a moment, because about 2 years later, after we were divorced and all those things, the signs and the wonders and the miracles, they all just stopped. And I
mm,
was like, I couldn't hear God anymore. And it was horrible. It
mm,
was terrible. And what happened was then my son, who was about 12 at the time, he started having some pretty severe behaviors. My ex-wife kicked him out of the house, so I had him full time. He began getting very aggressive every single day. There was restraint holds. The police were called. I spent over $100,000 trying to get us help anywhere across the United States. Nobody would help us because he had certain behaviors, he had aggression, and he had a mental health diagnosis. And nobody could help those three things. All they wanted to do was put a Band-Aid on it and not work on the root problem, which was trauma. And so during that, I had a 5 year period where it was just me and him for 6 weeks at a time. We didn't leave the house
mhm.
because I couldn't trust him. I didn't know what was going to happen. He would run away, and the 30 police officers would be trying to search for him for the safety of people around us, and for him. And ultimately, I made my first mistake. Now, think about this: 5 years, I made my first mistake with him. 27 cameras in and outside of my house to keep us safe. In 5 years, I made my first mistake. I walked outside after cutting up chicken and came back in. I was letting a dog out, and I came back in and I recognized that the knife I was cutting my chicken with was not in my hand. I
Mhm.
had left it on the counter, and it was no longer on the counter. I mean, can you imagine being so afraid of what could happen to even leave a knife? Like, it was locked up at all times. And he had it, and he was in his room. And so I called the police and told them that they needed to come and get it. They showed up and they said, "Well, what do you want us to do about it?" And I said, "Well, go get it." And they're like, "Well, there's not really imminent harm." And I said, "Okay, well, either you go get it or I will. Then there'll be imminent harm and you'll have another problem." I said, "I'm going to go outside. I'll sit out there. He'll give it to you. We'll go to the hospital like we do every time." So they did. So what happened? I went to the hospital. I followed them like I always do. And the next thing I know is I woke up in a hospital bed. I was shaking convulsively. I had no idea where I was, what was going on. And they said that I had been out for a number of hours and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And the only thing I could get out of my mouth was the Amen Clinic. My son and I had been evaluated. We had our brains scanned, and they had given me 3 years prior. They said, if you don't get help in 6 months, your brain's going to shut down. And
Wow.
I had lasted 3 years. And so that's what happened. My brain and my nervous system stopped communicating because of the trauma that was encapsulated in my body. And they gave me 3 months left to live. There was nothing they could do. And they wanted to put me in a treatment facility. And I said, no way. I've been fighting for 5 years for my son to get help. And now you want me to go and get 24/7 care? No, I'll go die at a friend's house. And so I went, stayed at a friend's house. And 2 weeks in, now this is how bad it was. I would be standing, having a conversation. After 5 minutes of that conversation, I would collapse on the floor, and my friends would have to take me back to my room. It was
Yeah.
bad. And so 2 weeks in, I was done. Like, I knew that my one and only assignment at that time was my son. And he was getting the help. He was into a shelter and going to be placed into a treatment, getting the help that he needed. My other two kids were with their mom, my ex-wife. They were okay. What else did I have to live for? I had no friends. I had no family left. Nothing except for $100,000 in debt. Anybody else can have that.
Mhm.
Have at it. And so I said, God, I'm done. Just take me home. And that was my prayer that night.
Mhm.
And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I felt this overwhelming peace come into my room.
Mhm.
And it was something that I'd never felt before. And I tilted my head up from sitting laying in the back on my back in the bed, and I saw Jesus come walking into the room. And he comes around the side of my bed and he looks at me and he says, "It's not time for you to come home yet." I was like, "Okay." And he said, "You have a story to tell, and I want you to share it." And I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but I tend to argue with God. I sometimes think that I know better. And I told him, "No, no, like, I don't want to." And he said that, this is going to be an opportunity for you to be able to share your story and you will impact
Mm,
millions of lives. And I said, "Okay." And then he said the word but. And Adam, I'm telling you that word but means that whatever you think is about ready to happen, nope, it's going to be the opposite. And he said, "You're going to go through the process." And
mhm,
I said, no, I'm not. I want one of these snappity snap miracles that I've seen hundreds of times. And he said, "Devin, the amount of people that you can help by going through the process is so much more than if you were miraculously healed."
mhm, mm.
I
Holy
said, "Okay."
smokes.
I said, "Okay." And so I went on a 4 month journey of healing and conversations with the Father, with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit, and understanding what He had deposited inside of me. And it was an understanding that He had deposited inside of me the Father's heart like I've never seen before in anybody else's life. Because while everybody else was calling my son a monster, everybody else was telling me to drop him off at the police station, just kick him out of the house and lock the door, I saw a son
Mhm,
that needed a father more than anything.
mhm,
I saw a son beyond the behaviors, beyond the trauma. I saw a son. And so what he did is he helped me be able to take that son and now be able to see that in everybody else. And through that, I began to start into my my business entrepreneurial journey of helping people utilize your story to be able to build 6 and 7 figure businesses.
mhm,
And when you do that, when you recognize that it's actually He who is in you that
mhm,
is going to create the thing that is out there, you can't go wrong.
mhm,
And so it's recognizing that things of your past will always build things of your future, but you can't let the things of your past hold you back.
mhm. So powerful. Wow. Man, this is insane. You wouldn't like. I'm going to share something with you later on, but basically, it's this is just the story that you shared. I would wish to have that type of father.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just yeah. Anyway, um, for me, so it's this topic is super hard for me to share. But yeah, yeah, really appreciate you to saying this because this is just insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, and I think it's important, Adam, that I mean you're bringing up a huge point of one of the things that I teach is never share a story that you haven't healed from.
Mm-hmm,
And it's so important because we recognize the motivation and the transformation of somebody's story and the impact that it can have. But
mm-hmm,
do you recognize that when I impart my story, and this is what God kind of showed me, is that it's like holding up a dandelion,
mm-hmm.
it's not the yellow dandelion, it's the one where there's all those
Yeah,
floaty things.
yeah.
And it's like, here's my story, and I'm gonna blow on it and all of those are seeds. Your story is a seed of transformation that's planted in somebody else.
Mm-hmm,
And so you tell that story, it's blown out all over the world and it's going to land in all these different people.
mm-hmm,
You control what's planted in that seed. Is it going to be hurt, pain, rejection, dishonor, whatever that looks like? Or is it healed, imparted, delivered, set free, and transformation?
yeah,
And so when you tell your story, tell it from a viewpoint of healed, set free, and delivered so that you're imparting that into other people.
mm-hmm,
And if it's not there, kind of gloss over the story. Just say, you know what? Like you said, I've had some things as well, and that's okay. And when the time is right, you'll be able to share it, and people will be able to share their stories in ways that are totally transformational and not just a another story.
yeah, yeah. You know, uh, when 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 was the moment for you that you actually like figured out that you want to do like storytelling and help people to do story, like, teach people how to speak.
Yeah. Well, when I started coaching, I jumped in full time. In order to start, I sold my trailer,
Hmm.
and uh, the first 30 days I made my money back. The first 90 days I doubled my money, and then 6 months in, I got a cease and desist letter on my entire business. And I got welcomed on to two reality TV shows as one of the top entrepreneurs in the nation. Out of 100,000 applicants, I was one of 40 that were chosen. Um, and I recognized that this was not easy. This
Hmm.
was hard.
Hmm.
But one of the things that God had showed me was that if I followed his kingdom principles, that I would always be on the right path. You
Hmm.
can't go wrong with truth. And so through that journey and over the next year, I started winning more awards. I started winning, I was an international bestseller. I started speaking on stages, and I tried all these different things. I tried the agency. I had done the organic. I had done a single social media post that made me six figures in 48 hours. I knew how to do the things, but it wasn't fulfilling. There wasn't a
Hmm.
purpose in it.
Hmm.
I didn't like doing behind the scenes stuff. I wanted to share. I wanted to transform people's lives
Hmm.
by communicating with them. And so last year, I gave myself, and we kind of talked about this, my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal to be on 100 stages in a year. Nearly impossible. But I was doing podcasts like this three, four times a day.
Right.
It's how I learned how to be able to do this. I was
Hmm.
emceeing big events. I was speaking on stage with some amazing people. And I hit that mark, 100, in 9 months. But through that, I recognized that there was certain points where God was putting his finger.
Hmm.
And in number 67 stage that I was on, I got to speak with one of my heroes who had motivated me through YouTube throughout the entire time with my son. And that is Eric Thomas. He's a hip
Hmm.
hop preacher, motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And I got asked a day before somebody had canceled, and they said, Devin, we need a speaker. Would you speak with
Wow.
us? And
Uh-huh.
I was like, nah, like I'm busy. And they're like, well, it's with Eric Thomas. Done. Canceled my entire day the next day. And I spoke on stage with Eric Thomas. And it was one of those moments to where God just said, I see you. I
Uh-huh.
see. I got to share with Eric the things that I had gone through and the ways that he had motivated me and how important that was. And he encouraged me to continue going on. Another opportunity was when I was at a conference and I was just attending this conference.
Hmm.
But for all of you out there, whenever you go somewhere, be ready to show up and be ready to show off.
Hmm.
We have to be ready in season and out of season. And I had this opportunity to go up on stage and to be able to share a little bit and throughout all of this, I'm just going to tell the quick part.
Sure.
There was also a dance contest, and I am not one who's got like the moves, not at all. But when you show up and show off, you know how to own the crowd, and I knew how to own the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so here I was on stage. I was swinging I have an orange jacket that I wear, and I was swinging my orange jacket around and around and around. And out of the corner of my eye, coming running out of this down the aisle, was this young boy. And if I can be honest, the first thing that came to my mind was, there ain't no way, boy, that you're taking this stage away from me. I don't care who you are. Here's what the winner got. The winner got to spend time with Willie Robertson, the guy
Wow.
from
Okay. Yeah.
Dynasty. He's one of my favorites. And so this kid comes running up, and I had to make a choice in that split moment. And he comes running up on the stage. As he does, I throw my jacket into the crowd and I start to clap. And I go and I grab the other five contestants and we start clapping and join around him as he jumps into Willie's arms and he wins that dance competition.
Ah.
Behind the scenes, I was like, man, I'm kind of disappointed, but
Uh-huh.
I knew that God was proud of me.
Uh-huh.
And afterwards, I was just mingling around at the very end, and security came and grabbed me. I don't know, something about like this orange caution cone, like walking around that's pretty visible. And so they grabbed me and they took me back to the green room. And Willie Robertson and a couple other people affirmed me, and they said, Devin, you know how to own a stage.
Hmm.
You know how to control a room.
Wow.
Know how to do it for the kingdom of God. Don't ever lose that heart. And
Hmm.
to me, that was a transformational moment for
Hmm.
me to know that my heart is what is releasing what God has called me to do in my business and my ministry. And I got to share at the end of that. I got to share in front of over 1,000 people exactly what my business is and why I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were sponsors that paid tens of thousands of dollars to be there. They didn't get to do that. But when you step up and you step out the way that God's called you to, He will always affirm it.
Mm-hmm. Why the orange color?
Yeah, I mean, so I love telling stories, right? So I love this question. It's my favorite question. So why orange? Uh, because it was my high school colors. I mean,
Oh, really?
that is it. There's
Wow,
no story. There's nothing.
that's
It's my
simple.
high school colors. I
Wow.
remember when I was first starting in storytelling and getting out there speaking, I was trying to create this story, like make it good. And finally, I was on stage one time, and it caught me off guard because I didn't really have any orange that I was on at the time. Just I think because I always try and have something. I think it was just my belt. And somebody said, you're always wearing orange. Why is it? And I said, that's my high school colors. And everybody just died laughing because I'd just done a speech on storytelling. And that was my entire story. So now that's my entire thing.
Yeah.
It's my high school colors. But I believe when it's branding, it's something that stuck. I was told for a number of years, you have to wear the black suit, you have to wear the blue suit, you have to dress to impress. And it wasn't me. I'm not a normal person. I'm me and I get to be me. And so somebody had sent me a picture of this orange blazer. And I was like, I'm getting it. I'm done. Like I'm doing it. And it just stuck. I mean, I have people mailing me stuff with my name on it. I get pictures all the time. But here's the thing. When you brand yourself, whether it's a color, whether it's a hat, whether it's glasses, whatever it is, branding is not about you and
Mhm.
it's not about your business or your brand. It's about the heart that comes behind it. Because some of
Mhm.
the most impactful things that are sent to me are kids' pictures that have orange on it.
Mhm.
Our kids' drawings or kids' stuff that have orange. And
Mhm.
what the parents tell me when they send it to me is thank you for being the father that you are.
Mhm. Mhm.
And to me, people are seeing my heart. When people see orange, they think of Devin, they think of the Father's heart. And that is the most important message that you can give out through your brand.
So good, so good. Love this. But actually, I see also some sword next
Yeah.
behind you. Was that actually
Yeah,
made?
yeah. So this sword is an award for when
Uh-huh.
you hit six figures in a year. So in my first 18 months, I made six figures, and that was one of the awards that I got for that.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So, and it's in your program, or it's in some type of program that you are like
It
part
is
of?
a program that I was a part of, and now
Okay.
I'm one of the leaders in it. So I lead 100 students in this academy of building up Christian businesses, and
Mm-hmm.
then I lead a six and seven figure mastermind in there as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So tell me, when, you know, have you been always like, that wired kind of thing? I mean, like that you've been dressing out different, thinking different, and so on, like already from the beginning, or have you like, how did you get into that type of, um, you know, your normal being, like the way that you are, and how did you ex like, was there a process to accept it actually? Because I think lots of people, are like stuck and struggling with, being, this type of people who they try to like be enough in front of others
Mhm.
and they are not really stepping into their like the fullest potential.
Yeah.
So if you can talk about a little bit about this, that would be great also.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the biggest things we need to recognize is that each of us are uniquely and creatively made in God's image. That means there's never going to be two of Devons, there's never going to be two Adams, there's never going to be two of anybody. And
Right.
so when I learned to own my own identity, and it's still a process. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's still imposter syndrome. There's always going to be. I talked to some of the world's biggest leaders, and there's still imposter syndrome. There's always somebody. And so it's recognizing the identity of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it came in a moment during the divorce with my ex-wife. And I had lost my job, I had lost my ministry, and I had to step back from so much.
Right.
And then I had an elder in my church that said, "You'll never be able to be in church ministry again because you're divorced."
Right.
And I cried out to God. I'm like, "This is how you want my life to be?"
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't do anything. She wanted to go up in her business, so she did what she did. Like this
Mm-hmm.
didn't have anything to do with me. And the Lord said this, and He spoke it very clearly as I was walking down. I was on the third step, going to down my stairs to my main floor, and He said this, Devin, your identity doesn't come from the creation; it comes from the Creator. And when you
Mm-hmm.
recognize that and
Yep.
you walk in the fullness of that, you will always be free.
Hmm.
And so that changed.
Identity is fire, right? Like when you step into your identity, holy smokes, what you can like, there's nothing can stop you now, like
Mhm.
literally. And I can feel it from you. You are like literally embodying so much. So it's even like I think it's the one of the parts of how you present yourself and how you speak and so on. So it's just so powerful. I love it. I love it so much. You know, I would love to also like touch a little bit on um when you because business is really like in my point of view and my belief about business is like a relationship, like literally a relation, like you have to be good at communicating with people and be good at understanding people, like people's like humans behavior and so on. It's so it's super uh like paradox to me, I would say, that I've been like thinking about studying human psychology like 5 years ago when I started the business, and I didn't really pay attention to it. And now looking at myself and I'm literally studying human psychology after 5 years, right? I was like, if
Yeah.
I would do it like freaking 5 years ago, I would be in completely different spot that I like, and anyway, but when it comes to relationships, we as entrepreneurs, I don't know about you, but we are like my experience, and I know lots of others that struggle with like when we are so focused on doing the thing, making like the impact, doing like performing the best way we can, so we forget about the other people around us.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what is your um like how you are able to stay in in alignment not in alignment, but still like working and pursuing your dream of
Yeah.
in a business, but also like being able to be present for your kids, for other people, your family and so on.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, I believe that the number one currency in our lives is relationship.
Hmm.
You can give me $1 million and I can blow it. But
Hmm.
you give me 10 people that are sold out alongside of me, and I can make $10 million like that. And so recognizing that relationships are the things that are going to fuel what you do. And Jesus, the Bible took me through a journey of what relationship looks like,
Hmm.
and how Jesus built the influence that he has. And it kind of walked through, a very brief description is that what he did is he got his identity when he was baptized because the Father said, this is my son,
Right.
called him out. In him I am well pleased. He
Hmm.
had his identity. Then everybody thinks, oh, it's going to be nice and easy. No, Jesus went out and was tempted for 40 days. And then he stepped into the signs and the wonders and the miracles. He started into his ministry. But what did he do? He went where people were at and he started mingling with the people. For
Hmm.
me, I saw that as we have that opportunity like this on social media to be able to reach out and reach 4 billion people that are on social
Yep.
media every single day. It's not about the likes, it's not about the followers, it's about the transformation that you can have.
Hmm.
And so from that, Jesus then chose 12 people
Hmm.
to pour into and he really did life to life with them. That's like our coaching programs. That's like
Hmm.
it's all about networking and building that inner circle. I have a whole training on kingdom influence relationships, and what that looks like to have different boundaries inside of your kingdom influence,
Hmm.
of your circle of influence. And so it's how to be able to build those relationships to where then what happened when Jesus went and fed the 5,000 and he did all these through like the Beatitudes and Sermon on the Mount, they all went out and they invited people in. Jesus sent them out two by two. Why? To go and share and bring people in. And so then that's how we get on the stages. That's how we start
So
speaking.
good. Yep.
All of that is the way that we grow in our influence from beginning to end. And it's all built on relationship because this is the thing. I believe that so many people get stuck for a simple thing that Jesus said. He said that you are my friend. And
Hmm.
you know what? There's a lot of times where we sit back and we just pray and we pray and we pray. We're waiting for God to give us an answer. And He's saying, you're my friend. You can make a choice and I'll bless it.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize that we're in alignment
Mm-hmm.
for the assignment that's around us, we will always be walking in the favor of God, and it
Mm-hmm.
starts with relationships.
So good. Wow, that's so powerful. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This topic literally like uh it reminds me like everything what I do now and implementing in my business basically and how I communicate with people and how I'm like building relationships and also like I would say it's not even in a business. It's like literally in your personal life, like literally like how you live your life, like daily life, I would
Mhm,
say. Very
mhm.
interesting. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing that. I would love to have a few more questions. Um, if you still are okay with the time.
I just got a meeting at the top of the hour.
Say again, sorry.
I have a meeting at the top of the hour.
Okay. So I just we just ended up here. Thank you so much for being here. Last question, and then I'll let you go. So if this would be your last interview you would ever done, what would be your message that would you love to leave behind you for others?
Yeah, I love this. I love this question because I get to impart something that Jesus imparted into me. And when he miraculously healed me, one of the things that he told me is that you were born to be a leader. So
Mm-hmm.
go and lead. You were created to be a legend. So never look back. And you were ready to leave your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take your legacy, don't take your story with you to the grave because it's worthless there.
Mm-hmm. So powerful. Thank you so much, my friend. It was amazing to have you here and like letting you share your light. It's just so inspiring. Before I let you go, where people can find you to support you, connect with you.
Yeah. Yes. Look me up on Facebook, Devin Schubert. You'll see the man in orange. And I also have a free ebook that you can do at createbetterstories.com. Teach you my frameworks on how to tell better stories.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And for everybody who's listening, if this stirs something you, don't ignore it. Share with someone who needs it, subscribe, leave a review, and remember, you weren't born to follow the script, you were born to be free. Bye, everybody.